my friends of good design, and welcome to the Illustrator Challenges. My name is Julia Vaca, and I'm your host. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a great day so far, and I hope you're ready to learn some fun stuff in Adobe Illustrator. If you're new here and if you've never used Illustrator before, check out the links in the description below. There you'll be able to access a starter file that you can open with Illustrator once you download it. And that's what we're going to be working with today. So let's jump right into this, my friends. And today's challenge, as you can see, is going to be all about vectorizing images. And when do we actually need to vectorize images? And fun fact is that you can vectorize images and create some illustration looking versions of that image, and that is super fun, especially when you're working with photography. Yesterday we were also touching on photography, so today we're kind of keeping that same background thinking. And once you open the starter file, by the way, again, in the description below you can access the link to this file that I've prepared for you, and here you will find two images that I have placed, and you may find them locked. So I have locked this big object for you so you don't get kind of confused. To unlock it, what you can do is click Command Option and 2. Once you click that, the two images are going to be unlocked. So again, Command Option and 2. Then another thing that we have here is a logo. And so the reason why I've placed these things here is because we want to experiment how that process will actually work for your design process. So where would you actually use this specific way of kind of creating an alternative to the photography? And in this case, what we want to do is we are going to be working with these images to create more illustration-like versions of those for this brand that's called Purebox. And on the left side, you can see we have this artboard set up. And here what we're going to do is we're going to place the illustration into this image, and we're going to create a little layout. Just imagine how that illustration might be used. All right, so my friends, and one last thing that I would like you to open is the Properties panel right here. You can access by going to Window and activate Properties right here. If you have the check mark on, that means that the Properties panel is active. So you can see I have a check mark, so my Properties panel is active right here. All right, so you can see we have the two images, and I'm going to start with one. I'm just going to pull it into my artboard, and I'm going to resize it. Now, we can resize by simply clicking and dragging one of the corners. Now you can see I can try to resize proportionately, but if I don't hold Shift, the resizing might distort my image. So I'm gonna hold Shift, and now you can see my resizing is perfectly proportionate, and my image is not going to get distorted vertically or horizontally. So your left hand, what I always do, so if you are working with a mouse with the right hand, the left hand I usually keep on my keyboard. So here's my keyboard, and I keep my hand right here. So Command, Option, and Shift, those three buttons, I always have them activated. And don't tell me I don't play an instrument, because I do. It's kind of like a piano, you know? It's you're feeling those buttons, and you're not even looking there anymore because your brain already knows what they do. So get used to shortcuts. Shortcuts can make your life so much easier. Okay, so again, holding Shift, resizing the image, we're going to fit it into our artboard, maybe even make it a little bit larger. But first, let's create outlines. Let's vectorize this image. And for that, we're going to have the image selected. The photo, it can be an illustration, it can be anything you want that is a pixel image. And how do you know that something is a pixel image or a bitmap image? When you zoom in, you will be able to see the pixels, right? So that means that this is either a photo or any kind of bitmap image, okay? That's how you know it. zoom in a lot, and you'll see pixels. Now, if you, let's create a version of a copy of that so we can see a comparison. Holding Option, clicking and dragging, I'm creating a copy of this image. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to vectorize this image, and then we will see the comparison. So I'm going here into my properties panel to image trace, right? I have my image selected. I've clicked on it with my selection tool. And now I'm going to image trace. And once I click on that, you can see there are multiple options here that we have that we can choose from. Either shades of gray, black and white logo. Sometimes we want to convert a PNG of a logo into a vectorized logo. So black and white logo setting would be then a very useful setting for us. Now, what else do we have? We have 16 colors. So that means Illustrator will help us to filter out the 16 most important colors in this image, and the image will be then image traced into those 16 colors. Now we can also minimize the colors, and we can create 6 colors only, or 3 colors, or we can also do a high fidelity photo, which is what we have. So we can do either low fidelity or high fidelity. Let's try high fidelity. And here we're getting a little message saying tracing may proceed slowly with this large image. Would you like to continue? We can do that, and we can make that image look exactly precisely the way this looks, or we can also go ahead and do a low fidelity photo. Or what we can also do is we can do 6 or 16 colors. So let's just try one, and then we will see what it comes out to. And excuse me. So now I have clicked on image trace on 16 colors, and you will see the difference now come out. All right. Now imagine every single color has their basically distribution. So if we zoom in here, we can see that there is a lot of this darker brown tones. So Illustrator, what it does, it recognizes that color, those pixels, and it basically creates an outline of those pixels, a vector line. And as we know, the vector lines consist of vector points and curves, or corner points. So let's take a look. Now that we have outlined this, and by the way, how cool does this look? I mean, this looks amazing, like a really, really cool illustration. Now, before we can access the vector paths, what we have to do is we have to click expand. So I'm going to go in. Oh, by the way, we have we have selected the 6 color preset. Of course, we can also go ahead and select 16 colors and preview that. So let's take a look. It always takes a moment because this image, you can see, is very, very complex, and it takes some time for Illustrator to really find out all of these paths and how they go. And look how cool this looks. Here we can see in the face we have all of these highlights and shadows, and Illustrator did a fantastic job really filtering out those outlines of the colors. And I think I'm gonna go with 16 colors, and you can see there are some really interesting shapes here in the hair. So let's do that. Let's click expand. And now what you can see is that Illustrator has created outlines of all of these kind of clustered colors, right? So when I zoom in here, I can actually select any of these shapes, and you can see those are actually shapes that have vector paths, and that I can see if I press the letter A on my keyboard, and you can see the vector points. So literally, Illustrator transferred those paths, those pixels into paths, and vectorized the image with that. Now, you know what's really, really fun to do when you have something like this? That now, since the image is already outlined and vectorized, vectors can be expanded to a very, very large size, actually indefinitely. So if I go in and make this image very, very large, it's never going to be pixelated, right? Now let's go into comparison. Let's go into the actual image, And let's go into the pixels. You can see there are pixels here, right? Versus if we go into the same spot in our vectorized version, you will never see pixels because those are vector lines, right? And so no matter how far I zoom in, and by the way, I'm really zoomed in right now. I'm at 64,000% zoomed in. You can see that at the bottom of your screen. So let me show you that real quick. So let me pull up Illustrator just like that so that you can see what I mean. So hopefully you can see this, or actually let me just move myself to the side, and that will also help. All right, so let's move myself a little bit to the side, and here you can see that right now. So let me go back and size it up again. So let me zoom in again into the same spot. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Okay, so, and we are very zoomed in right now. And you can see the percentage. You can see the percentage right here at the bottom. The percentage of how much we are actually zoomed in. 64,000% zoomed in, and still no pixels, still no pixelation. And that is because we have a vector, and that's the difference between an image that's pixelated or bitmap and a vector format. How fun is that? Okay, cool. So we have this. All right. How's the chat doing over here? Let's check. I can work with both hands. Robert is saying, awesome. Yeah, it's like a piano, right? Cool. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, everybody. Aaron is saying I'm left-handed. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, I'm wondering how that works actually when you're left-handed. I'm wondering if there are actually keyboards that are made for your left hand. Although, actually, the Command and Option you can also access on the right side of your keyboard most of the times. At least mine has that, and Shift as well. So I'm assuming that you have your hands somewhat like this instead with your right hand, and you're working with the mouse with your left hand. Is that right? I'd love to know. I think that's super interesting. All right, let me push myself back. Okay, my friends. So we have vectorized our image. Now. What are we going to do with it next? We are going to maybe adjust some of the colors. So let's go back. Let's push our actual image to the side, and let's bring this baby over here. Now, what we can do is, we know that this image has 16 colors, right? Or how many colors did we select? What we can do is, we can select a color by simply clicking on the shape. Actually, we might have to ungroup this. So Command Shift and G. And now all of these shapes are basically standing by themselves. So we can also make some fun little shifts like this one, and shift some of these shapes and create some really fun kind of dynamic feel to this. So we can do that. Now, since this is a glasses company, I want to focus on this color and on, or actually on this shape, right? Which is our glasses. Now I have selected this shape, and I can make this a different color if I want to. Now I can click letter I on my keyboard, and I can select one of these red colors, for example, right? So we can do that. We can do any other color as well if we want to. Now, what I would like to do is, I would like to remove some of these shapes off the background. Simply click delete, and that way we're kind of freeing some space for another color of the background if we want to. Okay, you can also leave some of these imperfections that makes it super fun and interesting to look at. So let's remove some of that color. Some of these bigger shapes in the hair we can also remove, just like that. And by the way, to select multiple objects, I'm holding Shift and clicking on all of the objects that I want to remove. Excuse me. All right. So somewhat like that, just cleaning up the little shapes here in the hair a little bit. What you can also do is you can select same color. So you can click on one object and you can go to select same fill color. And now you can see all the shapes in this image that have this same color are selected, but also we have some colors selected within the face that we don't want to remove. So be careful with that. But it's definitely a really cool way to recolor your artwork really quickly. Okay, cool. So we have that image now. Now let's go in and size this up to fit it to the artboard. And I'm going to select all of these shapes and I'm going to click Command and G so that I can group them again. Now I can place this here somewhat like that. Maybe focusing more on the lady right here. And now I'm going to create a clipping mask with a rectangle. So I'm going to create a rectangle just on top of my artboard, like so. And now I'm going to click letter V on my keyboard, select both of these objects, right click and click make clipping mask. Or you can also access that here in your properties panel. There are multiple ways to do that. All right. Now we also have a background color that we can select. So let's create a background for this image by again creating a rectangle. The first rectangle we used to make a mask, basically a shape that crops that image. And this one we're going to click Command Shift and square bracket open, or right click arrange send to back. Sorry, I'm talking so much. And now we can sample some of the colors using the letter I on our keyboard. We can make the background dark, we can make it this interesting color. We can also go in and adjust the color by double clicking into the fill, and we can make it somewhat even more exciting. So I'm really satisfied with the image now, and now let's make it on brand. Let's bring some branding into this image. And I'm going to select the Purebox logo, and I'm going to place it into our image. And this could be maybe a social media post or any kind of ad that Purebox might be putting out there. And you can see that I've decided to place my logo in this area where there is not so much happening. And you know, I might double click into this mask and even move my image further away so that there is some more space for the logo and for the logo to be legible, just like that. All right. So we have our really cool image, and maybe I'm going to again double click into this and double click and move my image even further down so it's not so much kind of in the focus, and there is some attention that we can put towards the logo. So this is really fun, right? And now we have this image and this really cool brand illustration that we can scale. You know, now the photo that we have, the photo might be having a specific size, you know, width 1080 by 719 pixels. Now, if we want to scale this image, we might get to a point where we have pixelation, or maybe we just want to use a portion of the image, maybe just the face, just like that, right? I'm going to create a clipping mask, and now let's say I want to scale this face up, and you can see there is already pixelation happening. So this is the big advantage of working with vectorized graphics, where we can scale it up without limits. How fun is that? Another thing that we can do with this background color is we can sample one of the color tones that are part of the image already, and that can make it also very exciting. All right, so something like that. That will be also a really fun color combination. Now we can also go in and make Purebox red. Again, I'm using the sample tool, letter I on my keyboard. Maybe sample this color right here. And you can see I'm always zooming in and out because I want to see how this whole design looks from afar as well, right? Is it going to be legible? Is there enough contrast in this logo? So those things all play a big role. Okay, so I mean, this is already really, really cool. Now, of course, we can go in and work with a second image, basically kind of doing the same thing. So image trace, and then maybe we can go on default and see what that will come out to. This is also really cool. This is like a black and white kind of option. So we can also do 3 colors. Let's just do some experimenting on this image and see what kind of things we can get out of this. I really love the black and white already, by the way. I think that looks amazing. The 3 color is also really great. I think this is my favorite. Now, what we can also do is, and there are some settings here in the image trace, and those are image trace options that popped up on my other window for some reason. Let's pull them over here. But so before you expand this image, you can work on these details. How many details do you actually want to show, right? So that's called threshold. How many details do you want to show? Now, if I pull this up, you can see the image. Actually, this is not the detail. It's more so kind of showing, taking more of the darker tones or taking more of the lighter tones, right? So if we do less, our image gets lighter overall, and if we do more, our image gets darker overall. But I think we need to find a good balance in here because we want to show the shades. We also want to show some of the facial form and of the hands, and but I don't necessarily want to add the background here. All right, so something like this. I think this is really, really good. And then there are some more settings, like like for example, ignore white. So whenever I expand this image, it will only take in the black filled parts of this image and vectorize those and leave out all the white. So we won't be able to access the white portions of the image because they're not existent. All right, so I can click ignore white, and then I'm gonna click expand, and now we can see Illustrator only took in the black portions. And now we can do the same thing here. Look, I'm gonna do a quick one right here. Let's just pull it over here like that, resize it, and let's pull in this background. And we might have to scale it up a little bit because the hat is a little cropped. And I'm again holding shift, going to size it up a little bit, just like that. Wow, this is impressive, isn't it? This is so cool. And now, of course, we can play around with the color in the background and maybe make it some interesting bright pink, or maybe just be careful that you have to have some contrast between the light and the dark, right? So feel free to experiment and see what works best. Maybe even try one of those brighter greens. Yeah, so there is a lot of experimenting you can do. But make sure to kind of keep enough contrast that this black is still kind of visible. All right, so let's just sample the same color, again with the letter I on my keyboard. And now let's try to apply this Purebox logo to this image. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make it really large. And I'm going to bring it to the front because right now it's being covered by the illustration. Right click, arrange, bring to front. There we go. This looks so cool. This almost looks like an album cover or something. Now, if we have little imperfections like this one, we can double click into that and double click until we have it exactly selected and simply click delete. So that little margin is gonna get deleted from the image. So this is also really fun. Now let's create a clipping mask and we're good to go with this image as well. So clipping mask, just like that. And I'm going to select the rectangle, hold shift. First, I'm gonna click V for my selection tool. Having the rectangle selected, holding shift, select my illustration. You can see the blue outlines of what is selected. Right click and make clipping mask. Now we might have to bring this Purebox logo to the front again. Arrange, bring to front. Wow, look at this. This is amazing. And then let's say you have some like little imperfections here and a little shape that you might fill in. You can still double click into this, take the pencil tool that is going to be here, pencil tool, and then you can just draw some random shape like that. Eyedropper eye, sample this black color, and get out. And now you can see we have covered a little portion of that. You can go in and adjust that so that it fits and kind of covers the portion of the background that you want. And there you go. We have adjusted the illustration a little bit to have the logo being legible. Now, how fun is this? We can, of course, export these images by going to File, Export, Export As. And here, of course, use artboards and export as whatever file format you want. All right, friends, this was super fun. I'm hoping that you have fun experimenting with this. Check out the description below to get to our Discord channel where you can submit your challenge artwork and get some amazing feedback from our moderators. And I will say bye-bye and until next time.